Good morning, my friends. I'm just having I know, it's misleading because this is coffee rather than tea. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining me. Today is an interesting day because I was doing some research over the weekend and I found out some really interesting stuff, things that I kind of thought and almost, you could say, had a sense about. And I've discovered that my theories are scientifically proven, which I think is pretty awesome. But before we go there, who am I? What are we doing here? Why have you joined me today? So I am Andrea Kuchin. I am one of the PhDs in follow-up of PhD in follow-up who created this broadcast, My Home Biz Tips. PhD in follow-up, we noticed that people needed help with their follow-up. Then we noticed that they didn't even have marketing strategies, so we helped them get that in place. And then there are things to do with the admin of running a business. And our whole purpose in life has been to help people promote their business and make more money, including more recently making money in ways apart from the business. And I talked a lot about that last week, but this week we're talking about something slightly different. It's the value of decluttering. Now I think about it, I could have actually made that part of my series, The Value of Simplicity, and made this number 4, decluttering, because it is to do with being simple. So if you have any questions or any comments, disagree with anything I said, want more information, you can call or text me 858-252-1190. And I really do actually answer. Myself, I answer. You can also email me at andrea@phdandfollowup.com. Same applies. I actually answer that one. You can join our Facebook group, PhD and Follow-Up, More Loyal Customers and Referrals for Busy Business Owners, which of course we all are. We're all busy business owners, kind of a bit of a silly, thing really, because we're all busy business owners, but that's the name of the Facebook group. So back to the value of decluttering. Years ago, when I was a kid, I shared a room with my brother, and my parents were it was quite a big room, and my parents were quite clever because half of it was carpeted where our beds were, and the other half was lino. It was yellow actually, which was brilliant because it meant that we could paint or do stuff that could potentially get dirty without messing up the carpet. And we could play and we could put up things that weren't affected by the bumps in the carpet or the pile of the carpet. Scalextric cars ran better and so on and so forth. But it was always a mess. Always, always, always a mess. We loved it. It didn't matter to us. We didn't care. My father's office, he worked from home. His office was always a terrible mess. There were piles of paper everywhere, but he always knew where everything was. I mean, if he needed to find a document, he would know where it was. Drove my mum nuts, but he would at least be able to find things if necessary, which of course, invariably, it is, except for the odd occasion when he couldn't. But she had a good system, a good admin system, a filing system, and, a lot of stuff was on computer already in those days. So years later, I suddenly realized that life was so much easier if things were tidy. I think I was still at home at this stage. I was a teenager, probably at school or maybe at university. And I realized that life was easier when things were tidy. So although the act of tidying up feels like work, it isn't if you do it consistently, because if you're doing it consistently, you actually don't need to do it. And yes, I now have my own teenager, and that is such a difficult message to get across. But it's an important one to learn because I have discovered that A cluttered environment, even just a cluttered environment, never mind a badly organized one, just loads of stuff all over the place can actually affect your morale. And that's a bad thing because it affects your productivity, which is a bad thing because if you're running a business and your productivity is poor, I don't have to finish that sentence, do I? So you need to keep your productivity high. So you need to keep your morale high. And as I've said many times before, I understand completely how important mindset is. And I have worked on my own personal development for decades. Don't think I'm knocking it. But I also know that you can spend decades on personal development and improving your mindset and the way you think about things and so on and so forth, a massive amount, decades and decades, and not actually take any action and build your business. So my modus operandi, if you like, for building your business is to give you things that you can do. You can actually take action. And then incredibly, your morale will follow. You'll get results. You'll be feeling better. Then you'll take more action. So for me, doing something is the first step to feeling better, always. And I've said that before, and it might be controversial, and I apologize for that. But there you go. In fact, this whole subject is controversial. While I was looking for a picture this morning, I found a quote from Einstein who said, if a cluttered desk is, I can't remember the word, synonymous with that wasn't the right word, but you get the idea. If a cluttered desk is synonymous with a cluttered mind, then what is an empty desk? What is a clear desk? In other words, if you've got loads of stuff all over your desk, you've probably got lots going on in your head. And if you have nothing on your desk, there's nothing going on in your head. Wrong. I mean, it looks good, doesn't it? It looks logical, but it's wrong because, and I've tested this out myself, and there's also quite a lot of research backing this up. And I'm talking specifically about desks today, but it applies to everything in your life. In my house, which we've outgrown, actually, I have to say, there are days when there isn't a clear surface anywhere. And I go out and I feel my stress level go down. And I think, okay, it's because I'm amongst the trees and I'm out with my dog and I'm on a walk, and that's a happy environment to be. That's why I feel less stressed. Or when I'm going out shopping, I usually go out shopping for, things I can't get on Amazon, or, so it's more interesting and I'm interacting with people, and I've justified that. I've said, the reason I feel better when I'm out is because I'm in a different environment and so on. It turns out that clutter and mess is really, really bad for you. So if you're one of those people like me who goes out and then comes back in again and feels stress levels immediately lifting up, have a look at your environment, see how messy it is or how cluttered it is. Because in some ways, clutter is a style. Having dozens of photographs on a shelf somewhere, that's a style choice. But when it comes to your desk, is it a helpful choice? Helpful being, does it improve your productivity or does it reduce your productivity? Right. Give yourself some space in your work environment for your mind to do stuff. Right. So that's another thing I keep harping on about. David Allen, in his book, Getting Things Done, says that your mind is not a place for storing data, right? You need somewhere else to put that. Your to-do list, your notes, your reference stuff. You need to put that somewhere else so that in your mind, you can be creative. But science suggests that, in fact, it doesn't suggest, it's proven that when your desk is cluttered, you still can't get anything done, right? Even if your mind has been cleared up because you've put all this mental clutter, the information, the data you were trying to hold, the appointments you've got, the things you've got to do, the things you've got to remember, all that stuff, you've put it in a system. Good for you. If your desk is a mess, you still won't be as productive as you could be. So here's a tip. Put away as much of the stuff on your desk as you can. Now, I did this. It caused problems at home, I have to say, because I cleared everything off my desk and I had to put it somewhere else in the meantime. So it was on tables and all sorts of things. And then I sat down and I started working. And as I was working, I reintroduced things I'd put away. So I can't survive with one pen. I like using different color, minimally a highlighter in my calendar, so I can mark the things that are really, really important to do on a specific day. So I needed that, and I needed a place to put it, right? I don't want a pen just rolling around on the desk. I want a place where I can put it and always pick it up, right? I need my planner. I need a notebook, and so on and so forth. And I gradually brought in the things I need. Now, aesthetics is important. So if there is an ornament or a plant or something you like having on your desk because it makes you feel good, don't get rid of it. Don't consider that clutter, because that serves a purpose. What we don't want is 93 pens, 16 erasers, 17 empty used coffee cups and glasses, 16 notebooks, last year's calendar. Oh, and underneath that, there's actually the one from the year before, etc., etc., etc. We don't want that. If you can, put shelves around you. Now, another little tip that I discovered completely by myself was that typing on a desk that was directly in front of me, parallel to my chair, I was beginning to get arm ache and wrist ache. And I bought one of those funny mouses. Are they called mice? That has a different angle, and your hand is in a different angle. And then, because my desk was actually a little bit too small, I brought in another desk, which I put to the side of me, where I intended to have my notebook, so that I had my keyboard here and I would swivel and use my notebook here. And my arm was lying on the table. And wouldn't you know it, the pain in my arm completely disappeared. And when that mouse died, because they all seem to at some point, I was able to get an ordinary one again, because as long as I rest my arm on this other desk, I can use my mouse for days on end without it worrying me at all. And I can swivel over and I can use my calendar and my notebook really efficiently. And my desk is relatively clear, and my little side desk is relatively clear. The one on the side where I keep my notebook and my calendar, unless I store my calendar up there. Depends. I'm referring to it so many times a day that it's often just open next to me because I'm going down lists of things I need to do. Having a clearer desk has made a massive difference. Something else I had in front of me was an annual calendar, so that I can predict, and count how many weeks it is to a certain date, or, predict when a certain date's coming. But I also had inspirational things up on the wall. And I have found I don't actually need as much of that there. That can be somewhere else. That can be, on the wall here, or that could be on a different wall somewhere. It's not as necessary as I thought. I used to enjoy sort of looking up periodically and seeing a good quote, but I can write a good quote in my calendar every day or every week. Every day is a bit much, every week. And having a clear space in front of me, even though there's a wall really close, has actually given me more distance, more space. It's a weird thing. Try it. I promise you'll notice a difference. Clear your desk and you will find your productivity improving. It's almost like magic. Now, this isn't that simple. It's not that easy to do. The most difficult part of it, I promise you, is actually starting. But once you start, it's amazing. I got a feather duster and I took everything off my desk that I could move. My computer monitor was a bit tricky, so I left that there. But I dusted everything and I put things back in bits. Maybe I need these 2 or 3 things or that thing. I brought my scented candle back because that's something I like to have around me. And it felt better. And I have to say that keeping it clearer now and having things corralled in little containers makes it much, much easier to keep clean as well. It's not anywhere near as dusty as it used to get, because it's amazing how quickly things near an electronic device get dusty, because electronic devices attract dust. They're literally magnetic and they attract it. And you can dust something and the next day it's dusty again. So it's much, much easier to keep clear. And yes, it works. Now, all I have to do is the rest of the house. But I really intend to do that. And I know it's going to make a difference. And also, it's kind of a natural way of having to get rid of stuff, because when you want to clear space, if there isn't a place to put something, chuck it. Now, I have never had that mentality ever, ever, ever. I almost got frustrated by people who did have, because I have the mentality of whatever it is, it served a purpose at some point and it can always be used to serve a purpose again. Just because I don't need it today doesn't mean to say I'm not going to need it in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. So hang on to it. Every nail, every screw, you wouldn't believe the things I saved, all in a very organized way. I had boxes where I kept things, but then the years go by and you don't use things, and then you realize, actually, what is the harm of going out and buying a new screw or whatever it is? I mean, okay, it might not be convenient. It is now. You can do stuff on Amazon and even have it arrive the same day. So a lot of the stuff that I was saving, I found I didn't actually need, right? So I'm now going through everything else and reducing the amount of stuff I have. My place wasn't necessarily messy, but it was cluttered. There was a lot of stuff in a small space, and it has made a big difference. And that is the purpose of my talking to you, showing you things and telling you about things that make a big difference and will help you in your business life. And yes, that rolls into your actual life as well. So I'm Andrea Kuchin. You can find me if you go to phdandfollowup.com/Andrea Kuchin. There's a bit more information about me and what we do. You can email me, andrea@phdandfollowup.com. You can call or text me on 858-252-1190. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Let me know how you get on with these things. Let me know if you do find value in the information that I'm giving you, right? And if you have any ideas about things that you want me to talk about, let me know that too. All right then, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again, same time, same place next week. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.